In a world where God is dying, four heathens come to deliver the final nails in the coffin. From the depths of hell, Satan sends four puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists from the Middle East.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Secular Jihadists from the Middle East. My name is Ali Rizvi, and I am here to host a podcast. Okay, that started out nice and formal, and then it just degenerated. With us, we have, as usual, the lovely Yasmin Mohammed. Yasmin Mohammed is author of the upcoming Confessions of an Ex-Muslim, and she writes at confessionsofanexmuslim.com. You can check her out there. Hi, Yaz. How are you?
Hi, Ali.
Happy Thursday.
Thank you. Happy Thursday to you, too.
You guys are probably wondering, like, oh, today's not Thursday, but we're recording this on a Thursday. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but anyway, whatever. Armin Navabi's here, too. Armin Navabi's our other co-host, who is the founder of, I say this all the time, I don't know if you ever get sick of it, you probably don't, but the largest online forum for atheists in the world, Atheist Republic, with over 1.7 million members. And he is also the author of a book that is consistently on the Amazon bestseller list under atheism called Why There Is No God, which you should check out. It's a great book. Armin, hello.
Hi, and I'm also the co-host of the Secular Jihadists.
He is. Armin is. Yeah, that's what I forgot to mention.
It's a great podcast. You guys should listen.
Yeah, you guys check it out.
This is so circular. Yeah, this is sort of like, how the Quran says that it is a perfect book. So I was like, hey guys, the Quran says it's the perfect book. This is the perfect
podcast because we just told you it's the perfect podcast.
We just told you. So. Yeah. And of course, in the background, our third co-host, Faisal's not here. Instead of him, we have Gabriel here with us, as he always is, the Archangel, who tells us, who pretty much directs every word on this podcast, so you know that it's infallible. If you find any errors in this podcast, then, well, you're going to burn in hell, not us. And speaking of burning in hell, our guest today is a great Moad Aldabbagh. I'm probably skewing your name.
Nailed it.
Did I say it too accurately?
Not really, but it's all right.
Oh,
yeah, that's fun.
It's just, hey, no one's nailed it this well since the crucifixion. Anyway,
I got used to it.
Moad is he's a secular humanist activist from the Middle East. He's going to tell us where he grew up in Saudi Arabia. He does a whole bunch of things. He has a comic that he writes called Let There Be Man. He's got a YouTube channel called Towards Secular Humanism in the Middle East. And he's done some great interviews that I've been watching on YouTube with people like Steven Pinker, people like Daniel Dennett, Noam Chomsky, and so on. So we'll probably get into that and talk about it later. But welcome to the podcast, Moad.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so let's start with where you're from, and whatever you're comfortable talking about. But where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Well, I'm from Saudi Arabia. I was born there, spent most of my life there. Most of my life was in this really small conservative town in Saudi Arabia called Taif.
I know. I've been to Taif.
That's unfortunate.
As you can see, Moad is a patriot.
There's a lot of monkeys there.
Yeah.
Did you see the monkeys?
Huh?
Did you see the monkeys?
Monkeys. How dare you? We don't believe in evolution. This is Saudi Arabia. We don't have monkeys. Just like Iran has no homosexuals, Saudi Arabia doesn't have any monkeys.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So are you Saudi or are you from another country who lived in Saudi Arabia? Because
no,
a lot
I'm
of people
Saudi. I'm Saudi. I was born in Saudi Arabia. My family's originally... it's confusing. It's confusing. I don't even know where my family is from, but they're kind of like Ashkenazi Jews where they migrated into different places. So I got like a kind of a big messed up kind of genetic pool. So it's not.
Yeah. So, but you were raised in a Muslim family, though?
Yeah, kind of. There's a part of my family who is like obnoxious Marxist.
Yeah.
Which is another religion on its own.
Yeah.
But with also the combination with Marxism and a little bit of not a little bit, a lot of Sufi kind of Sunni tradition. And there's like a couple of my uncles who are kind of subscribed to the Shia. It's weird. My family is extremely weird, religious and what.
Isn't it hard to be a Marxist in Saudi fucking Arabia?
No, there's a lot of them, man.
No, if you go back to the 70s, Marxism was huge. If you go to Sudan, Sudan, Iran, Marxism was a huge influence.
No, yeah, I know the history of communism in Iran. This is also before the revolution, but it was crushed after the revolution. So I'm wondering if in Saudi Arabia, given that it's so Islamic, do they not try to... Marxism was a big thing before and during the revolution, but it was completely destroyed during the revolution.
Yeah, Marxism is not a thing in Saudi Arabia. It's a thing in my family.
Right.
My family.
But did they have to be worried or be careful regarding giving voice?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Even especially in the 80s and 90s, even in Hijaz, which is mostly originally is part of the Sufi tradition. It was mostly underground. So it's kind of like the punk Muslims.
The punk Muslims.
Yeah, the equivalent of punk Muslims. They have these weird, blasphemous, worshipping graves and all that bullshit. So my family's within that tradition mostly.
It's pretty cool that you had different religions or different sects of Islam or different ideologies like Marxism. So when you were growing up, you knew that there were alternatives. It wasn't like for me, for example, everybody I knew was a conservative Muslim. So I didn't think that there was an option to be anything else. So because you had different people in your family that were different things, did that help you to be more open to the fact that that you could question more and critical thinking was more accepted in your family?
Kind of. I wouldn't say all of them. It's part of my uncles that actually I did not get introduced to until later in life, but the majority of them are just Sunni Muslims within the Sufi tradition who are just ideological, of course less ideological than Salafis. Like I said, it's like a combination of the hippie version of Salafis or the punk of Salafis.
Yeah.
It's just
but you're living in a country where the schooling is very Salafi.
Of course. Yeah.
So when we were chatting before, when we actually Moad, I know Moad through a mutual friend, Rivka. You guys both met Rivka Goldstein in LA.
Oh yeah, I love Rivka. Hi Rivka.
Yeah, me too. So Rivka's friends with Moad, and when I was in Ohio, she was taking me all around and introducing me to her friends, and that's when I met Moad. And so we were hanging out in a coffee shop, and he told me a little bit about growing up in Saudi Arabia. And one of the things he told me, which I found to be fascinating, but he mentioned it's pretty common over there, is that there were jihadi recruiters sort of around his high school at all times, just waiting for kids that are outside of the peer group or.
Yeah, especially in the 80s and the 90s, it was a common thing on a weekly basis when they get this guest and take a bunch of, after school, take an hour and just give lectures and basically recruit. And most of the times afterwards, after school kind of extends into something else. And they go into details, but the bottom line is basically recruiting. And that was a thing that happens quite often. It's not like underground or whatever. Now it is, but in the 80s and the 90s, even maybe in the early 2000s, it used to happen a lot.
That's how my ex-husband joined Al-Qaeda. That happened in Egypt.
Yeah, I remember at the time when the Bosnia Serbia kind of a war at the time. That was what
Oh yeah, they're
in my life.
opportunists that way.
That was the peak of it. I remember what time after school we got invited into this thing, and they got this guy. He's 30 plus year old, and I think I was 15, and we went there. It was like in some dodgy house, and he started talking and mostly sex. It's like, I'm married to a 15-year-old, and like he was talking in details that I remember explicitly. He was talking about how beautiful she is, like the women are. He went into kind of like the details where he mentioned how pink their nipples are.
Holy fuck. But was their skin so translucent that you could see their bone marrow? That's the key.
That's the question.
Not quite. Yeah. You know exactly where I was going with this.
Let's explain the context of this for the audience members who don't know. There are hadiths or traditions of Muhammad that say that the women, the virgins in heaven, will be so beautiful that they're going to be so fair that their skin will be transparent to the extent that you'll be able to see their bone marrow. Anyway, just one.
Yeah.
Isn't that sexy?
Like
let's get back to the nipples.
I guess. I don't know.
So hot.
Yeah, they were there. Oh my God. It's like, so we were like a bunch of kids just sitting there.
Pornography's like X-rays.
Yeah, with boners and everything.
Yeah.
Fantasizing about heaven, and let's go
because they know that's what's going to get 15-year-old boys, right? What's going to interest them? What's going to encourage them to go and blow themselves up? Sex. Let's talk about nipples, and then we'll get them to.
Yeah. Of course, I was. I've always been kind of part of the religion. My religion was always been. Yeah, that was my official religion that I subscribe to.
That's what it said on your ID card.
Yeah.
That's a great fucking idea. We should do that.
I believe in.
Did you ever tell that to anybody, or did you ever like give voice to your opinions like publicly?
I've always been obnoxious. I've been one of those obnoxious, always argue all the time. I think on the.
Did you ever get in trouble for it?
Oh, all the time. I went to jail multiple times.
In Saudi Arabia?
Oh yeah.
Fuck. I didn't know that.
For nothing. For
let's just talk about that for the rest of the podcast.
Can you tell us? Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah.
Like, did you go to the Mutawa jail or did you go to the?
Oh yeah,
jail?
Many times.
Because why? What happened?
Well, first of all, I used to argue all the fucking time. I was like
with your teachers at school, or
in the 7th grade, I failed. I had to repeat the whole year because of they teach math and sciences, and there's like 8 other subjects that are mostly religious topics. So one of Tawheed, I don't know if you know what Tawheed is, right? So yeah,
oneness.
Wow.
Yeah, oneness.
We had 3.
Yeah. No, that's not us. That's
the Trinity, Armin.
Yeah, that's the infidels. The infidels. Goddamn infidels. They're all over the place. They got you.
Yeah.
Imam is the true successor of Muhammad.
Wait, are you Shia originally?
Yeah, both of them are.
God damn it! Why did you invite me to this thing? Why did you invite me to this thing? Do you know I'm Saudi?
And Faisal was a Shia too. All 3 of them were Shia. I'm the only one that was Sunni.
I keep telling everybody here in Atlanta, all these ex-Muslims, like Ali clearly made it very obvious to everybody that Muhammad made it clear that Ali was supposed to succeed Muhammad. And then he couldn't be any more clear. I don't understand Sunnism. Like,
how? Okay, that's a 1,400-year-old fight. So we're not going to solve it.
We're going to fight
He was
about
talking
this.
about. No. It was about, he said succeed. He didn't say succeed. It's 2 different words.
I didn't know he spoke English.
All right.
He literally held his hand in the air,
succeed.
like in the most biggest gathering of all Muslims at that time. He basically held his hand.
Day,
like, this
you
is
lose, we won, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Guys, okay, listen, it doesn't matter whether you're a true Muslim or a Sunni. Okay, that's not the question. Let's just get back to the topic.
Okay, so how did you get to jail? What happened there? So you're in class.
It's not only that. I used to argue all the time. And every time I get engaged in a conversation, I used to have long hair, so that of course that kind of insinuate, what are you trying to be cool or something?
Oh, I have a story about that. Did they shave your head ever?
Oh no. I used to always pull a Trump, and let me explain how. But just go on a random tangent that I end up telling a long ass story that they get so confused, and at the end it was like, just go away, just go away. Yeah, just go away.
Just make them stop
There's
talking.
something wrong with them, and it works all the time. But
man, if only that would work with Trump too. If only it would be like, can you just get rid of him? He won't stop talking. Make him go away.
Yeah, I always argue all the time.
But I don't understand. How come somebody like you just goes to jail and they kick him out, and somebody like Raif is now in so much shit? What is sensitive to them for you to go to Raif mode, and somebody like you that says things and they jail and then kick? What's the
probably
line
is the
that
biggest
you can't
difference
cross?
that his father wants him in prison, I think.
It's not only that, it's getting involved into politics mostly. And involving Saudi Arabia is very sensitive about the involvement of other governments. I know Drive, we used to hang out in multiple coffee shops, and he always kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? That he was not talking about topics intellectually. It was more about from a movement perspective. He's looking to, involvement in politics.
Galvanize.
Yeah, in politics involving other governments. Saudi Arabia is very sensitive when it comes to involvement of other governments. Yeah, especially the U.S. and any other countries in Europe. Well, I wouldn't say all of the other countries in Europe. They mostly care about the U.S.
I had a story. When I was in 12th grade at Menarath Al Riyadh, it was a school and one of the few English medium schools. Well, I think it was probably the only one in Riyadh at the time. So I had long hair too, and I wanted to keep it. I didn't want to get it cut because I got in trouble. I got Matawas, which is the religious police. For those who don't know, they kept on they'd yell at me. So what I did was I took an Islamic prayer cap, the thick ones, not the doily ones, but the thick ones, and I tucked all my hair up under it when I went to school. And I was the only guy wearing the prayer cap all the time, so I had my hair under it. So that turned me from this hoodlum with long hair into this pious guy, and suddenly the teachers liked me. And a week or two later, everybody in the school was wearing these fucking hats. It became a thing. I was okay. So that was my way around it. Every time I went to the mall, I'd just tuck my hair up under it.
I remember my brother, when we were in school, he, like me and my brothers, we all had long hair. But we used to insist that it's not going to happen. The principal used to call us. I was like, did you cut your hair? And no. We always give them this bullshit excuses. And it's in your face. Hey, I'm lying. But once you say it with confidence, it's the confidence. That's the most important.
Man, you were that would not have worked. There were a lot of really confident people in my school. I mean, I can't go into the stories because they're absolutely hideous. But I guess it depends on the school. In Riyadh, the school I went to, it just would not have worked.
They just restrict people's clothing, how they wear their hair.
Yeah. But my brother, the story I was saying,
I got slapped in the face one time because my hair wasn't short enough. I try, we had to cut our hair, but I tried to keep a little bit high in the top here, and the principal came and hold it like this, what is this? And then he slapped me in the face. Yeah. So I don't know how you got away with the.
So what happened with your brother?
My brother got this shitty wig. He cut the hair short and he wore it, and
he tucked his own hair under it.
Yeah, and he literally almost he looked like a fucking monkey.
Yeah.
but again, because he was wearing this shamal whatever that thing that they wear, the rug.
Yeah, the
So
red. Actually, you can hide your hair under that. Like if you're
nodding
wearing a good
still
fashion.
like on the almost on a daily basis, like they check, like, oh, show me what you got it, under that.
The Guthra.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, look, it's just like kind of like in your face, like,
Mhm.
and he just looked at it. I was like, yeah, okay, kind of look like a monkey, but
I do miss wearing the thobes though, like the dress thing that they wear, the thobe, because it was weird. I think I've talked about this before, but one of the things is it gets really, really hot there, and occasionally when you wear a thobe, or actually even in Umrah, when we went for Umrah, when we went to Mecca, in Mecca you got to wear those two towels, the ihram. Have any of you guys been? Yeah, you've been. So
No,
for the ihram,
I've never been, but I know what you're talking about.
the good thing is you didn't have to wear underwear underneath it, and it's like super hot, so the boys would get a chance to breathe. That was really...
Boys aren't wearing underwear under their thobes?
No, under their thobes, sometimes they do, but...
Oh, you're talking about their at Umrah?
Yeah, I went to Umrah, so we had the towels, and it was just really nice because it was very, very airy. I liked wearing that.
Just got to make sure you tuck that in properly, I guess.
Well, yeah, you always go. When you go to Mecca, you go commando.
you gotta go commando.
Oh, shit, someone's going to tweet that. It's commando
Did you
around
ever
the Kaaba.
go, Moad? Did you ever do
I
Hajj?
did Hajj 5 times.
Wow.
Did you kiss the black
And did you
stone?
have
I did it on my own.
Okay, did you
actually.
shave your head then?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
It's not by force. I really, really, really tried. I tried to.
You wanted to believe, like you were trying to get a
I
connection?
tried. Like
Is
I
that
did
it?
the whole thing. I had a religious phase. Didn't buy it. I had this. I took a year off just to get into theology. Got into Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism.
Wait, how could you get? I don't get it. You you went and like publicly,
Studied, like he was studying
privately?
these things.
No, I took
Oh.
it. I took a year and a half off. I went to Malaysia. Lived in Malaysia for a while.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like
Because in
drifted around
Saudi,
for a couple of years.
in Saudi, you can't study Christianity, like you're the version of go on.
I didn't. It's not like I got. It's just like I read the Bible 4 times. Just like to me, it's a mystery that there's that many religious people that buy into that crap. So that was like growing up. I tried really hard.
So tell
Did it
us
work?
about how you finally made the decision that you don't want anything to do with any of these fairy tales.
I made the decision a long time ago. I've always, even when I tried, I've always kind of played the devil advocates, literally. So I don't know. It's not like I always kind of said, "Hey, I'm an atheist" or whatever. I just did not subscribe to anything. It's just like I said, my religion, my belief was,
And was there any backlash from your family for that?
Oh, all the time. Like my close, like my dad and uncles, not a lot of them cared a lot.
Did they say, "How will you ever get married"?
Oh, no, they know that I would never get married. My answer was like, my aunt used to ask all the fucking time, "When are you going to get married?" I always say August.
August. I love it.
I don't know.
You really are a shit disturber.
August in Arabic, it sounds very strong.
August.
Yeah.
And it's very specific too, so they buy it. Once again, it's like the fake confidence. Yeah. So you're gonna get married.
Did you come across? Did you know a lot of Shia? Did you come across any Shias, or did you know Shias in Saudi?
Nobody cares what Shias are, man.
Yeah.
Okay, can you reposition your mic again a little bit? Your mic's making a lot of noise again. The mic, can you just... Yeah.
So do you notice any discrimination or any like Shia rebellion or any Shias talking shit about the government or
in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Well,
Of
tell
course,
us.
they're kind of like stepped on in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, like being a Sufi within the Sufi tradition, I remember growing up, like when they used to have this Mawlid thing, which is one thing that the Shias and the Sunni Sufis have in common. Uh, Again, the boner for Ali. So they have a huge boner for Ali.
A bigger boner for a saint.
For everyone out there thinking that I must be really, really divinely attractive, I should clarify that I'm not. What Muad is talking about is the first Imam of the Shias named Ali, who's who I'm named after, or the fourth Caliph of the Sunnis. Anyway,
we should get that trending, boner for Ali.
Oh God. Yeah.
You know, they all have boners. Christians have boner for Jesus.
Yeah.
No, she has love Ali more than they love God.
Yeah, love. I mean, like
That's the way Sunnis are with Muhammad. They're like, you can draw Allah all you want, but don't you dare fucking draw Mo.
Yeah. It's crazy.
How do you even draw Allah?
You do.
Well, there's this great comic book called Let There Be Man.
That's right.
That's very good.
It's a cloud. He's a cloud with a beard and a mustache. Got everything.
He's always yelling.
Yeah, because
how would you tell a white beard on a cloud in a comic book?
It's black and white.
Yeah,
well, mixed? For that,
it's good. You guys should read it.
Okay, that makes sense. Hey, I wanted to go back to something. You said you had Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. Did you do the 23andMe thing?
I did. How'd you find it? I did.
What was your paternal
Because explain to the audience what that is.
Okay, let's explain to the audience. So it's DNA testing. You basically get your genome mapped. And the reason I'm asking this is because I got a huge shock when I did mine too. Because I'm supposed to be just Paki as fuck, right? I'm supposed to be just Pakistani. And, you know, my father's family and my mom's family originally lived in India. So I did my 23andMe. And it turned out on my paternal side, my haplogroup was J1E or J1C3. It's two different things for it, which also is Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. It comes from Eastern Europe. And my father's family had never really come into the subcontinent until about 250 years ago. So it was like where modern day Israel is, where Eastern Turkey is. They migrated down from there to Western Arabia. So that's how I found out that at least on my paternal side, there was some Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry.
Like 4% or whatever. It's just, Ashkenazi.
That's pretty high, actually. 4%?
Well, not even.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass right now.
I'm 2% Neanderthal.
Yeah, no, because that's a differerent thing. Like I'm still 96% South Asian, but the haplogroup.
96? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, not Jew, but the haplogroup, the paternal haplogroup, that's a whole different thing. That's not your. Anyway, that's technical, but it was just interesting because I was thinking that everybody already thinks that I'm funded by Jews.
My family
and now
kind of go.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're from North Africa. There's a lot of Spanish. Back in the day, part of my great, being Muslim. And by the way, I forgot to mention, my family, they claim that we're descendants of the Prophet. So
Who isn't really?
Yeah.
Everybody's family.
No. Excuse me. I'm the real deal. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
I know. We're very special.
Well, you know, he had a lot of wives and.
Yeah. So we're so my family, North African. There's a lot of roots in Spain as well. Back when we conquered Spain. Not occupied.
Those good old days.
Occupied, conquered.
Yeah, it's badass.
In our school, on Muhammad's birthday, every Sayyid and everybody named Muhammad would get a flower, and basically half of the school would get a flower.
How romantic.
So, like, basically half of the school
Why would you
were
give flowers to boys, though?
Oh my God!
We don't have any girls in our
This is
school.
2017. Of course, you give flowers to boys. Boys play with hijabi Barbies now. It's
oh fuck! Don't get me started, please.
But Ken still has to come separately in his own box.
Yeah, there it is. But
And he doesn't even have a boner for anybody, actually. Yeah, I know.
There's no boner for Ken.
Anyway, yeah.
So tell us, how do you feel about this whole left-wing betrayal that's going on with them fetishizing the hijab and the hijabi Barbie and the Nike hijab and the fucking all that stuff?
Well, I think you know that we talked about the left and my position on the left, that first of all, the left does not exist anymore. The left is, especially in the US, I'm talking specifically in the US, the left is nothing but like being a hippie. It's a phase that you go through. It's a cult.
Unless you're like Bernie Sanders, then you're like 80-something and you're still in that phase.
Yeah, but he's like 80. He's an 80-year-old socialist. Who the fuck is a socialist when they're 80, for God's sakes?
He didn't grow out of it.
If you wear a shirt, you listen to some kind of music, and therefore you're a hippie. Same thing with the left. It's more of an attitude. It's a bunch of, how would I put it? People look a bunch of romanticize nature, romanticize history, romanticize culture.
Romanticize communism.
They're more self-righteous than Catholics, Muslims.
But to be fair though, globally, the left is still the champions of free speech. Like globally, the far right are still the religious theocracies of Saudi Arabia's and Iran's. Those are government. Those are the far right, and the left are still the people that are trying to fight for secularism, free speech, and
that's why the Western left is so out of step with it. That's why the Western left.
I'm talking specifically. That's an American exclusive phenomenon. Right. The left in the U.S. does not exist anymore. The left, it's one of the, I think, one of the most damaging phenomena at the moment. Like I said, they're more pious than religious people.
Self-righteous.
Self-righteous. They act like they're they're pious, literally.
Can you actually be more self-righteous than saying that the creator of the fucking universe agrees in agreement with me? Like, how could you trump that?
Well, first of all,
it's the attitude, Armin, right?
It's the moralist attitude. It's the moralist attitude into almost romanticizing it. It's extremely damaging. That actually validates the argument of the extreme right. Let's say, as an example, what's going on right now with the sexual assault and everything. Now everyone keeps on talking. It's like Louis C.K. First of all, I fucking love Louis C.K. Second, just to be very clear, I have not read the details, but it seems like everyone is coming out for no reason. Sometimes it's riding the boat. And see, me saying that, it makes me sound like there's some kind of it makes me sound like I'm defending, what's his name? Roy Moore?
Uh-huh.
The thing is, like, it becomes an issue that even, let's say I dated someone 10 years ago, and it becomes an act of vendetta. In some cases, it is natural. Like, we all have our sexual inclinations. In some cases, let's say, I don't know how to say it in an articulate way. Without shooting
you got yourself painted into a corner here.
Without shooting myself in the foot. And I know, and this is part of the problem, in my opinion, that let's say,
But you're now a victim of left as well, because you're not saying what you want to say because you're afraid right now.
Exactly.
It's going to come across worse if you don't say it.
You're thinking about what is this going to sound like.
I think I know what you're trying to say.
So just say it. Just put it out there. Just put it out there.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you trying to say that now everybody's just jumping on the bandwagon and bringing up
Exactly.
stuff that's like 20 years old, 30 years old or whatever, because now it seems like it's the cool thing to do because everybody's doing it. You know
Exactly.
what?
Everyone wants to be a victim.
Oh,
In
okay.
the left, they found themselves in a position of the boy who cried wolf. Everything is racism. Everything is sexism. That these words got devalued, and that is the main problem of the left.
So here's how I would say it. I would say if somebody claims racism or sexism, the default position that you take is to believe whoever is saying that I was a victim until proven otherwise, instead of not taking a position until you have information. Like, this rational position is to not take a position until you get more information. But more people instead, what they do is like, let's just believe the victim, whoever is claiming to be the victim, until somebody proves us wrong, which is not the rational thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not only that. I think it goes beyond that. Part of the self-righteousness that just as soon as you mention someone might be a perv, that is not there's an equivocation between a perv and a fucking child molester on face value right now, because you'll see the type of kind of, I'm so disgusted by this guy. Whatever the topic is, you feel that child molester or someone, like in the case of Louis C.K., once again, I don't know the details of it. It might be a big deal. But just mentioning
the Louis C.K.
heading
thing
of
was
it,
a big deal. I mean,
Was it a big deal? Because it seems like all he did
I don't
was...
know. I'm not happy. I'm not sure why we're going down this road right now.
I'm trying to make a point.
He's giving us an example.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us what your point is.
Point is the position of the boy who cried wolf. That's what I mean. Is you mention something, sexism, they'll jump on it, and it's like, oh, I hate this guy. So now if you listen in the media, it seems like Roy Moore and Louis C.K. or it's the same thing. Okay, Louis C.K. might be a perp. I don't know the details.
He is a perp. And he said he admitted it himself. But I think Louis C.K. admitted to all of this
he's
stuff.
pulling his dick out and jerking off and blocking the doorway and not letting women out who wanted to leave. The point is,
But although I probably agree with you in principle, I don't agree with the example that you're giving right now. So
I don't know the details
as ex-Muslims, let me just finish. As ex-Muslims, we are all living our lives quietly. I've been an ex-Muslim for 15 years. Ali probably for the same amount of time. You for a long time as well. But we've all been really quiet about it. We're all living our lives. We all think we're the only one. Imtiaz, that's there with Armin right now, he thought he was the only Muslim or ex-Muslim in the world. We all did, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we all started to speak out, just one of us started to speak out. Ayan started to speak out, right? Somebody says something. And all of a sudden, now there's the internet, there's Twitter, we can connect. All of a sudden, all of these voices came out of nowhere. And like Mariam Namazi says, a tsunami of ex-Muslims. Everybody's speaking up from across the globe. So I think it's sort of in the same way. You're a victim, but you're a victim all by yourself. And you're going to stay quiet because nobody cares. It's your own personal hell. But when other people start to speak up, then you start to feel more brave and more supported. And so then that's why they're speaking up. That's
Absolutely.
how I see the victims of this sexual.
No, absolutely. But yes,
that was not my argument.
No. Let me see. I don't see any contradiction between what you two are saying, because Yas is making a great point. But I would say that if any one of those people that are speaking out are lying, they are hurting the other victims more than anybody else.
Exactly. That's exactly my
Nobody's
point.
arguing about that.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we're all in agreement right here.
Armin, that part I agree with. But when you say like, things like the fact that it's coming out of everywhere, I'm going to give another example in addition to Yaz's, which I think is an excellent example. But when I was in high school in the early 90s, you had the Rodney King beating. You guys know about that? Rodney King was a black man who, at that point, nobody had cell phone cameras or digital cameras, and he was beaten like brutally when he was unarmed by 4 white cops. and there were riots all over LA because of it. Now, it's not like that thing didn't happen. Now, for years and years, black people had been saying, I get stopped for being black. We get beaten. There's police brutality. And everyone's like, okay, well, we haven't seen it because everybody else had their own sort of privileged position. But then suddenly people saw this and they were shocked. And now you see it. And it probably happens a lot less now.
Ali,
you see it a lot. Wait, hold on. You see it a lot more, right? Because it's on YouTube. And everybody has cell phone cameras. So this is something that a lot of women must have been going through. Well, we're going through for many years, right?
This is such a. But this when you're saying that there are obviously victims,
right,
does not negate the point that you should still, even though they're victims, your positions should still be
innocent until proven guilty. Yes,
until proven guilty. Like, and if
that goes both for the accuser and the accused, both. Not just like,
of course.
What people do is they choose.
No. Stop right now. No. When I told my sister about what our stepfather had done to me, she responded to me by saying, well, how come he never did that to me then?
That's bullshit. So that's not the same thing.
She's not believing me because she doesn't have any evidence. And she's the first person that I finally told, like 20 years later. It is the same thing. When you say we have to be quiet and wait and innocent until proven guilty.
No, that's the point. We're not saying you should be quiet. That's not the point. No, if you're the victim, you should be encouraged to come forward. You should be supported when you come forward.
So then why are we saying that they're crying wolf?
Can I finish my point?
That's what we're saying.
Okay, go ahead, Moed. Tell me what you're trying to say, because I'm probably misunderstanding
when you're a victim.
Let Moed respond.
What I'm trying to say is the response from the so-called liberals is they feel happy about themselves when they jump on the boat on a case like that. That they feel, hey, I'm satisfied because I am just being happy in. I'm sorry.
So you're not talking about the victims right now. You're talking about the people that are dancing on the graves.
I'm not talking about the victims.
Okay.
They make
You're talking about the people with the torches that are like, yeah, fuck him.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
okay. They just immediately jump on it. Whatever. Look, you just yell racism. No matter what the story is, they don't care. They just jump on a boat and fuck that guy. I hate him. They don't, it's about them. Just like, everyone has an opinion on the war of Iraq as an example. They don't know anything about the details. They just want to have an opinion.
Can I comment on what I don't want to be like a fucking rape apologist because of what I said, right?
Too late.
I'm just saying, Armin. when you have 1,000 real victims, which they should come forward and they should be encouraged to come forward, and they're coming forward, and people are taking them seriously. Obviously, there are going to be some fakers that are going to try to take advantage of this, but
sure.
The thing is that when you have these real victims come forward, you should take all of their cases seriously. The response is that you should take their cases seriously, but you still should, thank you for coming forward. Let us help you build a legitimate case against your accuser. Let us gather the evidence. Let's make a real case to make.
A lot of times they just want to be believed.
But the thing is that we shouldn't.
It's not about building a case.
We should support people. We should support people come forward. We should help them gather the evidence, but we should not. As soon as they come forward to be like, that person is guilty. No, thank you for coming forward. Now let's build a case against your abuser. That's how you treat these things. You don't just go, okay, thanks for coming forward. That person is guilty. That's not what you do. You support people coming forward, but then you start building a case.
And it turns into a thing about the person itself. It's moralizing that makes me feel good about myself. It's not about the victim. It's not about the topic itself. It's about me feeling good about myself because I'm advocating.
I don't think that's all it is, man. There's some parts of it that you're right. Like Al Franken came out today. He's been a big advocate, slamming people for doing sexual assault. Turned out that he did it himself. So on that, that's one place where you have a point. But I think the vast majority of cases, when people are coming out and liberals are now even talking about Bill Clinton now, I think it actually helps when you have a whole bunch of voices.
Moad, maybe it's just the example, because I do agree with you. In principle, yes, the left do this. They are white knights all the time, and we don't need them. No, but there's no minority. Like, we can speak for ourselves. We don't need you to be defending us and or whatever, or making dolls and all that shit. So I understand where you're coming from. It's just that this specific example is causing the
yeah.
But maybe even when good examples, when you have actual abusers and real victims, when they jump on that bandwagon, it's not because of their care for the victim. It's just because they come. But I think what he's saying is that
I think a lot of them do care for the victims. I think a lot of them do come out.
I'm pretty sure a lot of them do, and a lot of them are just taking advantage of.
That goes for everything, though. That goes for everything.
Yeah.
Every time you have a big movement or a big change or a big revolution happening, like, in this last year, you've had huge people who've been doing this stuff for decades, like Harvey Weinstein, like Bill Cosby, like Bill O'Reilly. These are big, powerful people who've all gone down just in the last year. Roger Ailes. So all of these people have gone down in just the last year. And it's because of this big mobilization. Anytime you have a big change like that happening, you're always going to have a bunch of assholes in the back who are going to be opportunistic.
Nobody is saying that this is a bad thing. Obviously, this is a good thing.
But that's not what we highlight. Yeah. So I agree with Yaz. I think that this is probably not the best example of the left going loony. There's so many other.
It's just the most recent thing that comes to his mind.
Yes. That was the like you said, the most recent thing that came to mind.
But let's move on to
in general.
You talked about. So I saw your interview with Noam Chomsky as well. So Noam Chomsky's like, obviously nobody gets more left than Noam Chomsky. But you talked to him. It was a really interesting discussion, and you talked about the Arab Spring. You talked about the BDS movement and all this stuff. So what was that interaction like, talking to Noam Chomsky, considering that he's also kind of part of the left? He still is part of that. And this was, I think you did this about 4 or 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. So what was going through your mind when you were hearing his ideas?
Well, there was at the time on the BDS movement, that was a big thing. People thought that would be the solution for everything. Now, so I just wanted to get his opinion. The main reason, first of all, I like Chomsky. The problem is Chomsky fans. Again, Chomsky fans read some just headings, and all right, he's an anarchist. And I'm an anarchist. Those like people like that don't understand human nature. Like, really, no.
Well, they don't understand Chomsky either.
They don't understand Chomsky either.
Yeah, I don't think he likes his own fans.
Yeah, he doesn't like his own fans, exactly. They just watch a YouTube video, read some headlines, and that's it. And they take it as absolutes and keep on regurgitating stuff that he says. As an example, again, with the left, I hear over and over and over again, they fucking complain about NAFTA. They don't understand anything about NAFTA, because that's a thing that the left complain about a lot. Because Chomsky, a couple of years, maybe 7, 8 years ago, talked about NAFTA in multiple books and interviews. It became a thing that they just keep on repeating. And every time in an argument, someone mentions NAFTA, and it's like, oh, it fucked the working, American, I don't know, whatever, workers.
It didn't, by the way. Well, I mean, it did, but it also had a lot of benefits.
Yeah, but it's inevitable. It actually saved the American economy. It's inevitable to compete with China and whatever. But the point I'm trying to get at is, I follow up with a question. Do you know anything about the GATT agreement, which is a precursor of NAFTA? No, they didn't know anything about it. It's just the cause that they literally hate Bill Clinton because of NAFTA, and they don't understand anything about NAFTA.
They read a meme or something, or they watch some BuzzFeed video, and then they think they know all there is to know.
Well, that goes for a lot of people on the right as well.
So,
I mean, they're not fans of NAFTA.
Yeah, absolutely. But I bring NAFTA up because Chomsky, talking to Chomsky, what makes me kind of almost not like Chomsky is Chomsky fans.
Should we explain to the audience who like Chomsky and Chomsky philosophy? Like some people might not even know who the guy is, right? So,
I doubt it, but Chomsky he's a linguist, but his central kind of philosophy in terms of social or political philosophy is anarcho-syndicalism. Long story short,
manufacturing consent or manufacturing consent.
Manufacturing
that was his
consent
big, huge
and,
thing.
Media, but the main, the anarcho part sounds sexy. Being an anarchist is sexy, I don't know if anyone watches Rick and Morty, but ooh la la, someone's going to get laid in college. That's one of my mantras, because it basically summarizes the whole, the essence of the left these days, unfortunately. But they don't understand anything about what he's saying. But the saying that an anarchist, socialism, these buzzwords are very attractive to young people, college students, idealists, that they don't have a real connection to the real world. And this is, in my opinion, the source of the disconnect in American politics. And, you go from Trump supporters to the liberals. Trump supporters are connected to the real world, which the liberals know nothing about. And this is
Trump supporters are
they're connected to a part of the real world that is just like the liberals are connected to their little part, but I don't think either of them are connected to.
Trump supporters are as well, not all of them, of course, but all of them are as cultish with their support of Trump as a lot of other people are.
Absolutely, but it's mostly out of spite. It's out of.
But everybody has an argument for why they're like a cult. But I mean, there's anything that you say against Trump would not be even evaluated. You're a cock or something else. They come up with.
Yeah, like I used to think that until there's this coffee. Like Yasmin, when she came to visit, I go to the most awesome coffee shop in the universe because I've been to 90% of the coffee shops in the universe. But this is where I go every day, and I got to know
the one in Uranus is.
I got to know like a couple of older guys, grumpy guys. I love them. I love talking to them almost every day. Trump supporters, and everyone is like, oh, there's this brown guy who hangs out with these old 70-plus-year-old Trump supporters. So, and they're like against illegal. Actually, one time they were complaining to me about illegal immigrants. So yeah, I don't know how that makes sense. But there is a logical system. It's not, a lot of them know that he's fucking stupid. It does not make any sense, the stuff that he says. But it's part of the rejection of...
Yeah, they prefer him as opposed to the alternative.
Not only that, it's a rejection of the culture of the liberals. They feel that they're being judged constantly.
We don't like something about the country, so let's just burn it down.
I also thought that, but it's not as simple as this. No.
Well, Steve Bannon actually said that. So
but not all of them. Once again, like there's this sense that
this is like hashtag not all Muslims.
They're being judged constantly, so now they don't give a fuck. And out of spite, they get a kick out of it, what he does.
So they're basically fucking the country out of it because of their entertainment. Like
it's just nationalized trolling.
This is not a value judgment. I'm just saying there's a system. Yeah. There's a consistent system.
Of course, there's an internal logic within all. There's an internal logic within Islam. Doesn't make Islam any less bullshit.
But I find all of these people, like whether you're far left or whether you're far right or whether you're a diehard Trump supporter or whether you're a Salafi, I find that the mentality is very, very similar.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's actually to me, the victimization of the self. The if I win, I'm strong. If I lose, I'm a victim. These are like common traits of Abrahamic religions. You know, we're victims of the pharaohs and the Romans until they collapse. We take credit for their collapse and fuck them. Let's, we're strong. They're weak. And like, oh, by the way, I don't know. You probably know. But the tradition that when Muhammad was born,
The angels that washed his heart.
I don't know why I picked you specifically. Although whatever. That the collapse of the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire, the exact same fucking moment that Muhammad was born, both of them collapsed.
No, we don't talk about the collapse of Persian Empire in Iran.
That never happened. They still call themselves
That's
Persians.
the whole point. Yeah.
Right.
You're not one of those self-loathing Shias. All right.
What? Well, I mean, I'm an ex-Shias. I just make fun of. Yeah. No, but I mean, I hate nationalism, so I hate this whole Aryan supremacy bullshit.
Being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Don't. I'm not serious at all.
Yeah.
I'm not serious at all. For some reason, wanted to pick on someone, so I picked on you. I don't know why. I'm just like a dick like that. I don't know.
So I have a question for you, Moad. So because you grew up in the Muslim world and now you're living in the West, you have a perspective that people that have only lived in the West or people that have only lived in the Muslim world cannot comprehend. And so what's happening with us now in our activism is most of our supporters, obviously, are people from the Muslim world, because this means this is important to them. Everything that we talk about means a lot to them. But what's been happening, and Ali and I talked a little bit about this, and I wanted to get your take on it, is that we have people from the Muslim world are very, very angry. I mean, rightfully so, right? Because there's a barrel of a gun, like they can feel the coldness on their neck. So they're living in constant fear. So when they don't just have the anger against Islam on an intellectual level, because they're not sitting in a safe place like we are, they have like visceral anger against Islam and against Muslims, like vicious anger. And so we're getting accused of like going soft or going too far left because people in the Muslim world want us to be as angry as they are. But when you're over here, that kind of anger is not going to be productive. You know what I mean? So how are we going to bridge this gap between Muslims? Because we're on the same team. So the liberal-minded Muslims over there and the liberal-minded Muslims over here, or ex-Muslims or reform, et cetera, are people, basically. How are we going to bridge this gap? Because a lot of them are huge Trump supporters, hate Hillary, hate Obama, and don't really see things in the same way that we see it, because they're looking at it from a completely different perspective.
I think it's not logic. I used to think that logic is the main drive. In so many different ways, it's not. It's sarcasm is a big factor. Everyone has their own drive. You mean? Are you talking? Let me before I go on, I understand. I want to make sure I understand your question correctly. So you're asking in terms of what are the methods that works for people to understand.
Yeah. So I want them exactly. That's exactly it.
It's like I said, it's sarcasm. It's the thing that worked with me specifically. It's sarcasm. It's not taking myself seriously. That's how people, like I said, those Trump supporters who actually started complaining to me about illegal immigrants, which technically I am a fucking illegal immigrant, is by not taking myself seriously. And I start making jokes about my culture specifically. When people try to be extra sensitive, like I think I told you this, yes, about this story before. That one time in a bar, me and a friend of mine were making jokes. Like there's back when I used to drink. Now I stopped drinking because it's haram, of course. So there's this shot that I drink all the time, and one of my friends, it has hot sauce. I love hot sauce, but he like all of my friends now started calling it the ala kaboom. So it's like they say ala kaboom, and it's like when we drink it, and there's like a bunch of people sitting next to us. It's like, oh, you guys are so racist, and I end up being apologetic. It was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I am from Saudi fucking Arabia, so I'm making a joke about myself and my culture. You're making me feel bad, although you don't know anything about what's going on. But the point that I'm trying to get at is
that's how we all get called white supremacists. Yeah,
Nazis.
It's fun.
Or I get white supremacist, but then I also get Islam apologist.
Yeah, Muslim apologist.
That's what happened. That's the let me just give you a little bit of background about what made me ask you that question. Is somebody had posted a picture of a woman in niqab on her treadmill in the UK, and they took the video without her knowing, and they were making fun of her, basically, because it looked ridiculous. She's covered in this tent, and she's trying to run on a treadmill, and of course she can't because she's got all these layers of clothing. And so I got upset because I used to wear that shit, so I know how she feels and how dehumanizing it already is to have to wear that shit. And I'm sure she's not happy wearing it on a treadmill. I'm sure she'd prefer to be wearing something much more comfortable as she's running on a treadmill. So to be making fun of her at that point, I felt was like kicking somebody when they were down. Like, that's just too much. And I had a guy from Saudi Arabia that was arguing with me for so long saying, no, you know, all that you fucking people in the West, you have so much freedom and you have the opportunity to just take that shit off if you want to. And the fact that she's still wearing it means that she deserves to be made fun of and da-da-da-da.
Wait,
and I was like,
that
well,
was a self-contradictory point. Because
I understand
she doesn't
that
have
in
the
Saudi
option to take it
Arabia,
off.
I understand that in Saudi Arabia, women don't have the option of taking it off. And if you're living in the UK, the option is there. But there are still many, many restrictions. Like there's still family restrictions, there's still societal restrictions, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, there's also the, Yaz, you said that when you first had to take it off, it was uncomfortable for you, even though you wanted to take it off.
Yeah.
Because you felt exposed and it took a while. So there's also a psychological conditioning. The indoctrination is not easy to
100%. Yeah.
lose. Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but women in Saudi Arabia, they fight. And I said, well, some women in Saudi Arabia fight. Yeah. And some women believe that they're queens and they don't need to drive because they have chauffeurs and, you know, whatever. And it's comfortable. And they defend it. They defend this, what I'm wearing here, the guardianship laws. And so.
Oh, yeah. I retweeted that, by the way. That's so cute.
There it is.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah.
So I am my own guardian. So although there are some women that fight it in Saudi Arabia, there are some women that fight it in Britain too. But in both countries, the women that fight it are the minority. So anyway.
Not everybody can fight.
Not everybody can fight. It's really, really difficult. People say like, oh, you know, you did it. Anybody can do it. And I'm like, I didn't have a plan B. My mom threatened to kill me. So if I wanted to turn back, I couldn't. There's nowhere to go. So I had to keep going forward. But I understand people that, you know, want to leave, but then end up, you know, going back to their family and saying, actually, I'm going to just be a reform Muslim instead. You know, or I changed my mind. I'm not an atheist anymore, stuff like that. Yeah, because it's really difficult to be on their own. And like I mentioned before, people go back to North Korea because it's difficult to be on their own. Like you will go back to shit because it's comfortable or because it's, familiar to you?
Can I give you an example of that?
I was trying to ask a question, but I'm just rambling. Okay, go ahead, Armin.
No, I know a lot of people like from Iran also, like they say like these motherfucking mullahs, they deserve to die. I would like to watch them be burned in front of me as watch them die a slow death. And I like, well, no, like I actually during the Green Revolution in Iran, there was some girls bragging about stabbing religious people in the street in Tehran, right? And they were like, I got 2 today. I'm going to get another one. I was like, yeah, no, that's, and when you, and they say like, you don't understand. You're not angry anymore. And like, I am angry. What the fuck are you talking about? But just, of course I'm angry, but our problem with religion is the things that you're doing to people, like that you want to do to people. Like if we replace religion with what you're doing, what have we accomplished?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's why the point that I was trying to get at is not taking yourself seriously is a very effective tool. Sense of humor, it's sarcasm. Sarcasm goes a long way. Like, you won't even imagine the trick that I used to do is like make a joke that is not funny. It's one of those things that you keep on repeating until it becomes funny. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. So it's a reference, as an example off the top of my head. It's one of the things that me and my friends kept on saying. And after a while, it becomes kind of like a joke that within the group that we say. So let's say we're meeting somewhere. So, in Arabic, the sense of timing is terrible. And so we say, okay, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. And if I go 1 hour
I was
late,
in the bathroom.
it's like, I just went to the bathroom and joined. Yeah. So it became a joke, a running joke that we keep on, saying over and over again. It got integrated into our lexicon. But the point is, then let's say a story that comes about Muhammad or whatever, the Quran. You make the exact same reference, and they start laughing about it. It's like, haha, holy shit, that literally applies to the exact same fucking joke. And after a while, the joke keeps on expanding. And then they start reading the Quran in a different way, in an analytical perspective. And it just keeps on expanding. And a lot of people that I know kind of started thinking about things critically from that perspective. A friend of mine that came to visit, that we used to get engaged into conversations, and I haven't seen him in 10 years. He came to visit, and I thought it was fucking weird because more than at least 15 years. And he just texted me. He said he's around. Do you want to meet up? And I was like, okay. And then he was telling me that I just don't believe. I've been following you and reading the stuff that you write. And I remember conversations that we had 15 years ago. And now it started to make sense to me. So it's not about making fun of them. It's involving them into the sarcasm, into the sense of humor, into not taking themselves seriously. So it's not logic in most cases. I think it's giving people too much credit to think that it's purely logic. There's much.
I think that's a good point, and I think it also sort of helps because right now when you think of I guess if you take a 15-year-old American girl born into a Muslim family, wears a hijab,
Mm-hmm.
you're 15 years old, and there's a lot of people who are raised that way. They just think that way. Most of us, if we were girls born into a Muslim family wearing the hijab, we would be doing that, right? So now you're 15, and then on one hand, you have all your religious relatives and all this shit saying that you can't take the hijab off. You have to wear this because your hair is too sexy to attract men.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck you, I'm only 15. I'm like, you're rebelling. And then now on the other hand, you have these people like, like these guys now, they want to deport my family. They think my entire family is not American. And now they're going out and they're yelling at me in the street, like, take that rag off your head and all this shit, and making fun of me running on a treadmill. And now you're 15, right? And you wear this thing, and on the one hand, you want to rip it off, and on the other hand, you want to wear it as a symbol of defiance. And this is for people who are Muslims in the West, right? So there is and this is why we talk so much about the difference between criticizing hijab and criticizing hijabis, or criticizing Islam and demonizing Muslims, and because that's actually a very, very relevant and real problem.
Of course.
For Muslims living in the West. And it's something that people who, for example, live in Egypt, in Muslim majority countries, who don't have time for that kind of discourse, who have a completely different experience, they don't have a lot of patience for that. And then people over here feel like, those people are not representing their religion properly. And the problem is there's nobody here is wrong, right? That's the biggest issue.
Just two totally different perspectives, and we're unable to see things from each other's point of view.
Some people are wrong, some people are right. There's no way. No, I don't think nobody here is wrong. Some people are wrong. Some people are
they're
wrong.
They're not wrong about why they're like okay, so wrong is probably the wrong word.
No, I understand their anger. I was that angry when I was there. Yeah, of course you're that angry.
It's completely. Yeah, it's one thing to say the anger is understandable, but that doesn't make them any less wrong.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you see, there's a fact that once you or me after I kind of like tried so hard to understand it, is that we are all kind of reacting to the world that we are thrown in. And there's a system based on how we see things and our experiences. But going back to the point about the interaction and how people kind of perceive as someone that came from Saudi Arabia. Now, there's a couple of conversations that I had some time back. Someone who knows that I'm not a believer. And we were talking about like the current situation in the Middle East. That was a couple of years ago. And I mentioned that they was talking shit about Muslims, Sunnis, Shias, Christians, that the Sunnis, the Shias got radicalized. And I was mentioning the Jews got radicalized. And I mentioned Jews. It was like, wait. What did you say? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it was like, what did you say? What do you mean the Jews got radicalized? So there's, and that's one of the things that pisses me off here in the West, that it happens all the fucking time. As soon as I say the J word, it's just like everyone, even people that they know that I'm not a believer, they just immediately assume that I'm really talking shit about the Jews, if you understand.
Really? I don't think anybody cared about anybody talking shit about Jews anymore, to be honest.
In Saudi Arabia,
it's like the cool thing to do these days. If you try to say something bad about Muslims, that's when you're going to have everybody jump down your throat.
Being from Saudi Arabia, it happens all the time.
I
think it's a different perspective, that there's some level of skepticism still, the people that I recently, like, I don't know that well, because I think you know that I'm extremely insensitive. My jokes just does not discriminate. But always, when I start mentioning Jews within the same context, so I was like, whoa, what did you mean? That I actually once, a couple of years ago, I hate myself. But people actually said, most of my friends are Jews. Like, something like that. I'm making a joke. But they actually pushed me to say something like that, which I usually make fun of people that say that, because,
just say my ancestors were Jews.
I had a black friend. Well, that's kind of like, it makes you a racist, but just by saying that. But they actually made me say it. And that's one of the things.
Where was this again?
It happened multiple times.
Where mostly?
Here in the US. In the US. Like in college, actually, once I was talking to multiple people in some gathering, and again, it was secular, a secular group, something leftist syndicalism or whatever. And there's a girl that we're introducing ourselves. Hey, where are you from? I'm from Saudi Arabia. And it's like, well, I'm Jewish. So I was like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? Like,
Just in case.
all right, okay. Allahu
Well, you
Akbar.
guys have developed a
So-
reputation. You did kind of earn that, though.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
The problem with Judaism is that it's named for both an ethnicity and a fucking religion. So imagine if the word
Well, that's a smart.
yeah,
That's a
imagine
good,
imagine all these Muslims.
no, not like
Yeah,
conspiracy.
it's not like
smart.
they
Let me
planned
finish
it.
one
It is smart.
sentence, guys. Imagine you know how we get accused of racism.
So anyway, you guys.
Don't interrupt Armin, guys. No interruption. No interruption. Don't interrupt Armin. Okay, Armin, seriously, go ahead.
I'm saying, you know how we kept on getting accused of racism when we attack Islam, even though imagine how much more complicated that would be if the word for Arab and Islam and Muslim were
They
the same
wish
thing.
it was the same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is why when we like Judaism is bullshit, they were like, oh, you're being anti-Semitic. Like, what the fuck are you talking
Yeah,
about? Like,
seriously.
we're talking about the Old Testament and shit like
Seriously.
that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, like I once I said something like in the Old Testament, if you go Deuteronomy 10, where it says go into the cities and don't leave alive anything that breathes, and put swords to all the living, and take all the women and children for plunder. It says all that stuff in the Old Testament. So I remember mentioning to somebody, I was like, it sounds like Hitler was the chosen people and everything. It was like almost like Hitler was taking tips from the Old Testament. And oh my God, okay, that was which completely makes sense to me.
Correct.
It's completely correct.
It's correct.
It's correct, but it's also bad.
I'm gonna say
If it's
I'm gonna
correct,
see
it can't be bad.
Jews are the first people to say that Judaism is
this is
bullshit,
what
to be
this is
honest.
exactly why an attack on Judaism is not an attack. Most Jews are secular.
No, it's not. Of course
It's not on Jews.
In fact, I would go ahead and get racist, and I tell you that I think that Jews, biologically, I think are smarter than average people.
Yeah, they definitely are.
And I think there's an evolutionary reason for that. I mean, these are people that were being prosecuted all their life unless they were smart enough to get into finance and stuff, to be useful enough, and that's why I think they're so.
But then they also say that's why they were persecuted. Charles Murray, the bell curve guy, he actually wrote an article and commentary called Jewish Genius. It's really interesting where he wrote about this. It was super, super controversial because he was talking about how Ashkenazi Jews have higher IQs because they traditionally had jobs in business, which requires thinking, whereas Sephardic Jews didn't because they were mainly farmers. So, they don't necessarily score higher on IQs. So it's really, he's being
do they have the highest number of Nobel laureates per
yes. And the reason is very simple.
Zionist funding.
Of course. Those
same people that fund this podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, of course, and the gays and everything, and the Shias.
No, we don't get that much funding. Yeah, just
Shias are poor.
But
you were saying
I'm from Saudi Arabia, so everyone is the enemy. I blame everyone for anything. Who's not Sunni, of course. But the point I was trying to get at is the Jews. They had to assimilate. There's an element of pragmatism in the minority, the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire. They had to kind of like adopt Christianity. They rode the wave of the Roman Empire, where Islam, that is the problem, is the Muslim identity comes from, or the Arabs in general got together, became a thing because of Islam. So that's why it's much more difficult. And that's why in my videos, in the way that I was talking towards secular humanism in the Middle East, has to go through classical humanism, what Catholicism went through in the 1500s and 1600s. That's where classical humanism comes into place and kind of paved the way into the Enlightenment. That getting rid of, going back to the Roman roots, the Roman identity, and moving away from the Catholic identity. And that is the thing that is lacking in the Middle East. Is Arabs or see themselves as Muslims. There is no identity. There's nothing. History begins with Muhammad. So they don't have a sense of identity other than being Muslims. In that's why in my opinion, secular humanism would get there through classical humanism. Is they need to understand the culture itself. What does it mean to be Arab? What does it mean to be Persian? Rather than the reduction of the Muslim identity into Muslim identity. That's why there's a conflict. Like that's it.
What about individualism? What about fuck identity? Just be like you
No,
yourself.
but it is important that because they sold us this garbage that there is the Jahiliyyah before, and it was horrible for everybody, and children were being buried alive, and everybody was persecuted, and Muhammad came along with his cape and was like dun da da da, and he saved everybody. Right?
Is that Sahih Hadith?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it was.
But now we look back at the history and we find out, okay, that's all bullshit. That's actually not true at all.
There's art like they say. That's one of the bullshit stories. That was one of the first things that I started questioning in school. Is they keep on saying that the Quran is the perfect book, while at the same time, if you hear in the stories that there was like multiple in Suq al-Qaeda, and that they used to trade like multiple poetry that kind of reduces the rules of syntax, the grammar of the language of different dialects. And basically, Muhammad picked something in the Quran. They kind of shifted the other way, where the Quran became the yardstick of the Arabic language. And then you say it's the perfect book. Well,
because it defines the grammar.
Exactly, you define the grammar based on it. So that's one of the first things that was like, there's something.
If there's a grammatical error, you just turn it into a rule.
Yeah,
easy.
Exactly, and that's what it is. It's like it's not the same as the Quran. Therefore, you're making a mistake.
No, the Quran was written apparently before Muhammad was even born, before Adam existed throughout, before time itself. There's a copy of it, like Quran as it is today was already in heaven. There's a copy of it in heaven. Every other Quran that we have is just a copy of the Quran in heaven.
Yeah,
Armin, I've heard that from you. I heard that from you, but I was not told that. When I asked that question, I got slapped across the face. So,
okay.
I was told that all the prophets were all Muslim all the way back to Adam.
Yeah, that's what I was told too.
And I was like, but then how come it only started with Muhammad, and how come the Quran only was, revealed to him? How could they have been Muslim before Islam even existed?
Oh, because they said all the other stuff got changed.
Because it wasn't revealed. No.
I know, but I'm saying that story, I was not told that it wasn't revealed and all that stuff, that it was up in heaven. I just got a slap across the face for asking such a stupid question, but I never got the answer. But had my mom known that little tidbit of information, but yeah, I was.
So the explanation to us was that humanity was not mature enough for a full version of Islam. So humanity was introduced Islam in bite piece, like little pieces. So you get mini Islam, and then Islam a little bit more.
Oh wait, that does sound familiar. Yeah, I was told that it was sort of like a trilogy, and then you have to ignore the parts that came before it.
Yeah, but he kind of fucked up, with the Jews and everything. He fucked up. I was like, they kind of screwed me. And then the Christians, and I was like, it was a hit and miss.
He also plagiarized their religion, right? So Islam is actually a Jewish conspiracy.
Absolutely. If you get lost, blame the Jews.
Yeah, anything, just anything.
Like really,
why is it that they're always the go-to? Okay, honestly, guys, but why is it that they're always the go-to people for blaming everything on? Like, is there like
they're smart and successful?
No, because they're the ones who started it all. So the Christians who came in, right? And when they started, everybody blasphemed against the Jews, right? It was the original. It was Abrahamic 1.0. So the Christians
But I don't think, was there actually logical reasoning behind it? It's just Or is it just because like, oh yeah, who do we go to blame? Like traditionally, everybody just goes to the Jews, and everybody just follow the tradition.
Yeah,
Is that
it's
just
crazy.
Yeah,
It's irrational hate. It's just so many people have tried to kill them.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just unbelievable.
Well, especially the
Well,
Christians
it's not
and
that
Muslims,
they tried to
right?
kill them. It's they
or
actually don't
persecute
want
them.
to.
Or,
No,
the
it's,
later
they need
religions
them there
tried to
because you need
kill
somebody to
the
blame
originals.
everything on.
That's what it is. It's just Christians came around. They're like, okay, the Jews are wrong. We're right. Muslims came around. They're like, the Christians and Jews are wrong. We're right. And who gets screwed by everybody? The Jews.
No, it's not Ali. It's not just the Christian and Muslim. It's also the fucking Russians were anti-Semite. Like they didn't, like even communists were like discriminating against Jews.
These days too. They're not religious.
No.
The communists are very
everybody
recent,
was just
though.
Copying each other.
It's all derived from there. The communists are that's all very recent. But the Catholic Church that had an official anti-Semitic position until just a few decades ago. So
it's a weird phenomena that is, you made a really good point. Like within the spectrum of the Abrahamic religions, it's a trait that they do all the time. Like the pharaohs are evil, therefore they must end. And here we begin. So in order to justify their position, they have to vilify the past. So it's well, blame the Jews,
and then everybody else just blame them too.
Move on.
Yeah, but you don't want to remove them completely because you always need an enemy. Even some Nazi generals, when they thought that they eventually going to eliminate the Jew, they actually expressed concern, like we can't. What are we going to do when we have no Jews? We have united the whole ideology based on the threat of the Jews. We should not run out of Jews. Like, can we please stop keeping some? Like, that was an actual.
That reminds me of the cancer hospital where I did my fellowship at. They had a sign outside that says, "Our goal is to eradicate cancer." I'm like, then you're going to put yourself out of business. It's like, you're a fucking cancer hospital.
But in Egypt, there are
terrible
no Jewish
analogy,
people.
I know, but
yeah. It's like 90% Muslim. There's a small percentage of Christians, and I'm sure there are obviously atheists in there, but nobody says anything. But still, the fear of Jews over there is completely in every single day life, all the time, super irrational. They've never met a Jew, they've never seen a Jew, but they're very happy to blame everything on the Jews.
Oh. Yeah, they used to, like in Saudi Arabia, even with snowflakes, they used to fucking freak out when they saw paper snowflakes.
In Iran, a lot of people say that we don't hate Jews, we just hate Israel, though. So I don't know if that's an Iranian thing.
Bullshit.
Yeah. That's what we tell the West.
They do have these Jews. They do have some Jews in Iran, and they keep like showing it to everybody and say, like, look, we have Jews in Iran.
The thing is, that's also an opportunistic thing. Like, because the thing is, there are a lot of people who don't like Israeli policy, right? And then that includes about 50% of Israelis themselves, right? Who don't like the current guy. But what the sort of anti-Semitic people do is they jump on that. They're like, no, we're just criticizing Israeli policy, which is a legitimate concern for a lot of people. But when they opportunistically use that as a cover for their anti-Semitism,
I don't know.
So both things are.
They're not that subtle in Saudi Arabia, though.
Oh, no, not in Saudi Arabia. No, not in Saudi Arabia. I'm talking about the subtle ones.
I'm kidding.
Saudi Arabia, though, I told you, like snowflakes, they fucking freak out 6 points.
Your joke tone is the same as your serious tone, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it is.
I know. I get that all the time.
Okay.
So, Moed, is there anything that you wanted to touch on that we didn't get to? Because we're running out of time here, and I want to make sure that you've shared everything that you wanted to share.
No. I thought we were going to talk about Saudi Arabia a little bit more, but that's going to be a completely different topic altogether, and it will take like hours and hours.
In a nutshell, as quickly as you can, tell us about what this whole House of Cards that's falling now. Tell us what your opinion is about all that.
Is it a power grab or is it reform?
Reform my ass. It's definitely a power.
He's like, I want Saudi Arabia to be moderate again. I'm like, when was it moderate again?
I think it's.
He's blaming it on Iran, though. He's like, it was moderate until the Iranian Revolution.
I think it might. It might be either catastrophic or it might be a good thing. Unintentionally, of course. but is completely a power grab, without
Power
a
grab,
doubt.
yeah.
All of the princes that they went to jail or whatever. It's competition. Uh, the the competition between the royal family is between Abdullah and his brothers from the same mother, and Fahad, the brothers of Fahad, who are from a different mother. And they had this rivalry. They always competed against each other. For some
But
reason,
nothing like this. But nothing like this. Like this is completely unprecedented.
Well, no, the thing with this that's so unprecedented, there's two things about it that are very unprecedented. First of all, they're like three separate security agencies, like the military, the intelligence, and the internal security. And they were all under different prince families.
families.
And what this guy did was he took over all of them. The second thing is he did it so publicly. Like Saudi Arabia, this kind of shit happens. It never happens so publicly.
it had to happen. You have to understand that this is the first, like, who else is going to be the king from the brothers? Put in mind that all of the kings so far are the sons of the fucking founder of Saudi Arabia. So it's like brothers, we're talking about the first generation. The transition to the second generation, it had to be radical. So it has to be messy.
Because there's too many of them competing.
Exactly.
Everybody expected it to be radical, but not like this. Not like this. This was
actually everyone expected it to be much worse than this. Much worse than this.
Well, much worse because they thought it's going to be messy. They didn't think somebody's going to come and all of a sudden put everybody in jail and start killing people. And like this was a pretty swift. This guy just went out.
Oh, Moad, that helicopter that fell. Do you think that was an accident?
I really don't know. Okay,
if it's an accident, it's such a big coincidence.
It's such a fucking. Someone is extremely fucking lucky in the exact same fucking week. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, but I don't know enough details about it. So, but
your
my
gut
hunch,
reaction is
it's not a fucking coincidence. But no, it's actually, like I said, it's much smoother than the transition. It's much smoother than what people are.
Yeah, but the surprise is that it's so smooth, and because of the fact how aggressive it was, is surprising, and that's why it turned out so smooth. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right.
But you have to put in mind that before they used to just kill motherfuckers. Now at least they went to jail. Of course, I'm not making any value judgment over here. But
the guy's a fucking idiot, though, in everything else.
Oh, yeah.
The Ben Salman guy.
Yeah, of course, they're all idiots. Are you kidding me?
No,
they're
not. The rest of them were strategic. This guy is just like making decisions that used to take 5 years happen within like every day.
He could be either an idiot or a genius.
That's the
he
Trump
could be
method.
either. Well, I mean, he did hang out with Jared Kushner, made several trips to Saudi Arabia.
What do you mean? Ali, how could he be a genius? Every decision he's made has backfired.
Not really.
It's too early to say.
Okay, that's a different
conversation. Too early to say. And that's what I meant. It might be an extremely positive thing unintentionally, or it might be catastrophic. But I think there was... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, on the surface, it looks like it's a good thing for women. Okay, sorry.
Absolutely.
No, it's not. Not for the girls in Yemen. Not even on the surface, because for the girls in Yemen will disagree with you. This is a guy that is...
No, of course. I'm talking about girls in Saudi Arabia. I'm talking about feminism in Saudi Arabia.
It might be because not only the driving, he was extremely harsh on the fundamentalists in Saudi Arabia. The strategy in Saudi Arabia...
He took away their authority.
He
took away the religious police's authority to arrest
them. But he had to go to a different direction. But you have to understand the strategy since the beginning of Saudi Arabia.
He's distracting the West with fake reform to do more radical shit.
The conservatives has always been the cushion for the royal family. The way that they argue with everyone in Saudi Arabia. Say, if you lose us, that's what you're going to get.
That's what they do in Egypt, too.
Yeah, that's what you're going to get. ISIS. So he's losing this cushion. So I'm assuming that the whole deal with Kushner and Trump, it provides a huge cushion. Other than that,
They can't rely on Trump.
You can, of course.
But they're betting on the wrong bad
But
horse.
you can rely
Trump
on money in establishing a huge
you're running out of money, especially this spending.
No,
you're running out of money.
I gotta say, I do kind of like Kushner. I know everybody hates him, but there's I don't know. There's something.
What do you mean everybody hates him? We don't know much about it.
No, they don't. But so far, like I think that he seems like, to me, seems like the most
stable.
I can't make any judgment. I can't make a judgment on a guy that we don't even hear him say anything.
Of course, this is all at a very, very relative scale. So, but he's the guy that I think is. But go ahead.
But I just wanted, the only thing I could give Ben Salman credit for is that he decided to go arrest a whole bunch of people, and he decided to say women can drive now at the same time, and nobody said anything about this mass arrest of all the people that could have. And it's like, oh look, shiny object, women can drive. While I go purge.
People are talking about it, but I honestly, I think just someone needed to do something for cultural change.
He's either going to become very powerful in Saudi Arabia, or he's going to end up in jail very soon.
The thing is, internationally, the idea to do is whether he means it or not. The point is, he said a lot of things that he wants to do, and everybody should hold him to it. They should just remember that, hey, you said this, you said this.
Nothing. People should hold him to the war crimes that he's committing in Yemen. Everything else. Let me tell you. Everything else that he's doing is completely secondary. It's such a small amount of improvement compared to the war crimes that he's committing right now in Yemen. We are witnessing a second Rwanda that the whole world
I think
ignored.
those are two different issues. Like Obama, you can say Obama did a whole bunch of great things.
They are done by the same motherfucker. It's the same fucking guy. And he's distracting people with those other things.
Armin, listen, Obama did a whole bunch of great things, and then he also supported Saudi Arabia with the war crimes that are happening in Yemen.
Those are two different things.
It doesn't compare.
He's directly bombing people.
They're not connected. I agree. Nobody's
they're the same person. They're the same fucking person. I'm not going to congratulate somebody. If somebody comes in my house and murders my wife and starts washing the dishes, I'm not going to be like, well, you murdered my wife, but hey, thank you for washing the dishes.
No one is congratulating.
If it was,
like I said, it's unintentional. It's unintentional. I don't think that
I think if anybody wants to hold him accountable to anything, it should be for what he's doing in Yemen. More people should be talking.
Why can't you do both? Why can't you say, okay, listen, you said you wanted to bring all these reforms. We're going to hold you to that, and also stop doing this shit in Yemen. But now that he said things, use his own words.
As long as you're talking about Yemen, I'm okay with you talking about other things. But more people need to be more people need to be talking about Yemen.
Anyway, Muad, where do we find you on Twitter? Facebook, website?
Moad Aldabbagh. Okay. That's my handle. My Facebook is, you can find Let There Be Man. There's a Facebook page of Let There Be Man, and there's on Facebook, MOAD Aldabbagh. Same thing. Simple.
By the way, if this podcast comes out after a whole bunch of things has changed, and like by the time this comes out, maybe Ben Salman is dead or something. I don't know, maybe. So if this is out of date,
let's hope he isn't, because you just said that, and now you're the one who's going to get blamed because that's like foreshadowing.
So this is November 17th. We're recording this on November 17th, 2017.
Yeah, so. I don't think he's going to die.
He's not going to die. He knows that after ISIS.
You have to understand that there's a lot of very powerful people in Saudi Arabia now hate this guy. A lot of people with money and resources really hate this guy. That's not a very safe position to be in. I'm not saying anything is going to happen to him, but I'm saying that I don't want to be in that guy's shoes.
You know that multi-billionaire
I think he
guy?
might pull it off.
That Talal something, I think his name was.
Yeah,
the one that owns Twitter or whatever.
Multi-billionaire guy with multi-billionaire enemies that want you dead. I wouldn't want to be in that position.
I think he might pull it off.
Yeah, I think he might pull it off too. Let's see. Let's see when this comes out.
We'll see. Yeah. Right. The circumstances might be leaning towards his direction, in my opinion, with ISIS and what's going on in Saudi Arabia.
And do you think it would be a good thing if he pulls this off?
I think it might be a good thing.
Better than the alternatives.
Better than the alternatives.
I completely disagree.
No,
this guy is hawkish. This guy is so hawkish.
He is.
He's so pro-war. He's going to make he might make things better for people in Saudi Arabia, but he's going to make life hell for a lot of people outside of
Absolutely. Right now, I'm making me no value judgment, but I'm saying it might be catastrophic, but in general,
it might be unintentionally good.
Unintentionally good, exactly. Because
net negative, net positive for people inside Saudi Arabia, net negative for the planet.
Okay, now we're going in circles.
Saudi Arabia ever given a shit about any other country anyway? And they barely care. They barely care about their own citizens. So
it's survivalism, self-preservation.
The problem is when they start caring about other countries, they fuck them over, just like Iran.
Okay, that's what this is all about. This is the whole Iran-Saudi Arabia thing going on right now. That's where all this animosity.
I'm saying both of them. I'm telling them. I'm putting them both in the same camp. I'm saying that both of them, when they get involved in other countries, people suffer.
The Shias are starting to come out now. I know.
So we're kind of repeating ourselves now.
Both. What are you talking about?
Repeating ourselves. So let's wrap up. Because we're a little over time. Wad, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It was really fun and educational.
And
yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And pretty chill. So
good night, everyone.
Next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
The secular jihadists have been made possible thanks to the gracious support of the Illuminati and the great state of Israel. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. In the meantime, we greatly appreciate the support of our current donors. Please consider supporting by sharing the podcast with your fellow heathens or by donating at patreon.com/SJME.